I'd like to call the Proctor City Council joint meeting with the Police Civil Service Commission to order.
I would like to also call the meeting to order.
Thank you. We're in the council chambers for our annual meeting, Monday, March 7th, 2022. And would the Civil Service Commission like to begin, or?
Sure, we'll begin. We would like to take a little break from the agenda here and speak and have Officer Matt Reibel speak for a moment or two on how the SRO is going. He's the SRO at the school.
If I leave this down here, Ted, can you hear me? Pick it up. Okay. As mentioned, Officer Matt Reibel. I'm the SRO for the Proctor School District. Brief update. To say the least, it's been very challenging the school year. Just with staffing issues. Nothing per se at the school. It's just being able to get up there and spend the amount of time I would like. I'll average probably anywhere 2, maybe 3 hours a day, depending on calls for service, but 2 to 3 hours a day at the school. My schedule is rotating though too, so I'm not working like banker hours Monday through Friday. It's just the way the staffing is at the PD. I'm not allowed to do that. It's not feasible. But when I can get up to the school, my day-to-day activities, basically, I try to get there before any students in the morning. I'll walk around the building, kind of just do a brief security check of stuff inside, and I'll also meet with principals, dean of students, other teachers, just talk with them, build relationships with them. Then when the kids come in, I'll walk around the halls too, visiting with some. I think the budget the PD had for police stickers is probably extinguished about now, because all the kids bum rush me and want stickers. So I go through stickers quite a bit, but that's part of the job of building relationships with the students. So around 8 o'clock or so, maybe a little after, I'll meet with office staff, principals again. By that time, usually the kids are in class, in session. Little bit easier and quieter to walk around the halls when they're in class, obviously. So then I'll do kind of a final security check and make sure doors aren't propped open, because there's a lot of kids come in a lot of different entrances, and some of them are locked, and so you'll find garbage receptacles propping doors open so kids can get into school. So that's usually when I'll kick those out of the way and make sure the school's locked down. After that, sometimes I'll come back to the police department here and I'll finish up on cases or continue to investigate cases that I have picked up while covering calls for the city. Last fall, with everything that went on, I got backlogged quite a bit, so I'm still working on, I guess, a way to put it, the citizens of Proctor cases. I'm still have some follow-up. I'm working on that. So that's another reason I don't get up to the school as much as I would like to. Typically, I'll try to make a late morning appearance at the school. Again, that all depends on the call load, what's happening in the city. Next major time frame I like to be up there is right before school is released for the day. And again, very similar. I'll walk around the halls, try to talk with kids, hand out more stickers usually, and just meet again with, principals, dean of students. Hey, any, situations arise during the day that I wasn't made aware of or that you'd like to make me aware of. they're really good if I am off-site for whatever reason. Office or principals will call my cell phone, and I can't think of a time that I haven't been able to get up to the school within, say, 5 minutes or so. Obviously, once in a while, I'll be on a call, and I won't get the message till after I clear that call, but I would like to be up there more. I think for the SRO program to benefit or to be used how it's supposed to be, having a full-time officer up there, you know, is what the program's based off of. I remember being a kid, it's hard to build trust and relationships with adults if you're only seeing them a little bit. I do notice kids are talking to me more than when at the beginning of the year. But being up there a lot more, I think, would facilitate that process of building relationships a lot better. I've had some teachers reach out to me, and they'd like, you know, me as a guest speaker just to come into the classroom and discuss, you know, maybe different laws, underage consumption, or just kind of have a question-answer type of laid-back atmosphere where the students can ask me anything about law enforcement, about laws, and unfortunately, I've kind of shied off on that just because my day's unpredictable with still covering some calls on the road. So it's like when I go and be a guest speaker, I want to make sure the students have all of my attention, and not go there for 2 minutes and say, oh, sorry, I gotta go, see you later. I just think that's kind of unprofessional. So when I can be up there more, I would very much like to get into the classroom as a guest speaker, which is part of the SRO process. Grand scheme of things, I'd like to make, you know, some PowerPoint presentations that I can give the students about, you know, underage consumption, drug use, driving behavior. Seems like a lot of times you make those pushes right before big events like prom or something like that, just to kind of let kids know, hey, watch yourself. I've been to a few extracurricular activities, games, hockey games, couple football games, basketball games. I was at the snowball dance they just had a month or two ago. From my knowledge, there were no incidences at the snowball dance. So I was surprised because I think they had over 200 students there. So for that to go off without anything happening, and a lot of that too is just a testament to the faculty and the staff at the school. They do a really good job, which makes my job easier too. But I guess I'll open it up to questions for you if you have any, but that's kind of the rundown. I am being handicapped by staffing, but staffing shortages are everywhere, just not in law enforcement. So it's something that probably needs to be addressed, and have to look at things. But I think for SRO program to reach its full benefit, you do need somebody up there full-time Monday through Friday. So we'll have to look at ways maybe that we can improve that aspect. But any questions at all?
Thank you, Officer Rebel. I'll start off, I guess. I think City Council and administration is well aware of the shortage needs, and we know you guys are getting burnt out. We thank you for what you guys do, obviously. Your presence up there is obviously felt. We could probably squeeze in some more stickers if we need to. But no, I just want to say we do understand the shortage need, and I don't think this meeting could come at a better time to discuss those shortage needs. But again, we can't force people to apply for the position, but, you know, later in our city council agenda, it looks like we're gonna be addressing one of the hiring recommendations, so. But I just want to say thanks, and has there been discussion with the school? I mean, they're still interested in having an SRO program?
From my understanding, I guess so. I don't discuss it too much. I mean, it seems like when I'm up there, I'm always welcome, and they're always happy to see me up there. Yeah, I guess I don't get into the
Sure.
politics too much up there.
But they're not letting us know that they're dissatisfied with the service that we're providing them currently. Their understanding of the shortage staff as
Yes,
well?
yep,
Okay.
yep. I've explained things to a few of the key people up there. I usually will let them know the days I won't be there. Like if, say, I work a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, my Monday shift, I'll be like, I'm not gonna be here Tuesday through, you know, the following days, and they know how to get a hold of somebody if something happens. So yeah, I try to keep them in the loop and keep them informed on when I'm gonna be up there, when my days off are, and usually in contact with the athletic director too, letting them know, yep, I can make these games, nope, I'm not gonna be able to make that game.
Perfect. And those earlier comments are, I see Officer Mosier in the back and Chief Gates, that goes to the whole department, not just our SRO, but thanks to you guys for what you do. Does council have any other questions for Officer Rebel? Councilor DeWolf?
Obviously, we're all aware of staffing needs. Some other things that kind of stand out as I look into the future to make this successful and allow you to have the ability and equipment and space so that you can be successful in doing that. What about office needs and equipment needs? And where I'm shooting this is, as I look into the future, and I can't look at a crystal ball and tell you what's going to happen other than when Easter's coming and Santa Claus, but is there something that we need to do as a city when we negotiate these contracts to get you better office space so that you could be more efficient? Because I don't ever foresee you not having casework, you know, so that you would be able to kind of do dual purpose, not that you take focus away from the SRO, but instead of having to run back to the office here to do a report or whatever, is there something better that we need to rehash to give you the tools so that you could kind of dual role there instead of having to go back and forth?
I would say when we negotiate the next contract with the school board and the district is that we do spell that out, that there is a specific office space. It is secured for law enforcement. It only can be used by us and not used by multiple people as it is now. Granted, we have the issue with COVID testing and stuff like that, and they were using that. They were using it for storage. We have problems with that. That got worked out. But I think if we spell it out in the agreement that we have with them, that would be good.
And then part B, is there additional equipment needs that we're gonna need so that he can bring him? I'm picturing like the tough book you use remotely. in your
Like that,
squad.
I'm sorry, my ear.
I'm picturing like the tough book that you use in the squad car.
Yes, and we can do that. We can do that through a VPN up there. We can have that, and we can do that almost right now, actually. It all depends. This year, Hermantown switched to a new record system. We are going to be looking at a new record system, and that is all internet-based. And we're probably going to go to that in the next year or two anyway, because the one that we're using is the shelf life is coming to an end. So we've been thinking about that. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other question? Councilor Benson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was curious, with your interactions with the students, what type of incidents cross your desk?
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to word it so it doesn't sound as bad as, I mean, they'll have scuffles, I guess I'll call them scuffles. You know, I think back to when I was younger, you know, on the playground, some pushing, shoving type of things that isn't necessarily gonna arise to a criminal level, but obviously it's a behavior that we don't want tolerated at school. There was the TikTok challenges there back in the fall. Some threats, yes, you know, maybe one student threatening the other.
That really hasn't changed since Officer Mosier was up there with kids threatening each other. You know, that really hasn't changed since Officer Mosier was a school resource officer either. There's always going to be, it seems like there's always kids fighting or threatening to fight someone else and stuff like that. You know, I think in the last month that has been the uptick of that with those types of incidents that we're dealing with, social issues of kids not getting along, basically.
And I mean, there are other issues, but it's more, I would say, school district issue type things, like kids having cell phones in the class. That doesn't fall upon me to enforce that, you know. So there are some, I guess, school violations that the school handles. But yeah, overall, besides the incident last fall, I mean, that was the most severe thing that I've had to deal with so far. You know, the threats, some fights, but most of the time that's just turns out to be pushing and shoving. It's nice to have the camera system in that school, because that can alleviate a lot of possible discrepancies of what a student reports to the school or even their parents and maybe what actually happened. But I'm trying to think of, you know, every once in a while, I haven't heard of it recently, but in the fall there was some trespassing issues with students from other schools coming onto the property, which that is a crime. So things like that, the whole general security of, you know, keeping people out of the school that aren't supposed to be there. But like I said, I haven't seen that recently. The person who was trespassing, you know, they were contacted, their parents were contacted, and since then that's ceased to be an issue. But yeah, I guess think back to your grade school or high school days, and yeah, it's some of the same things: pushing, shoving, name calling, and other issues that, like I said, aren't necessarily a law enforcement issue, but more of a school issue. Credit goes out to the janitorial staff, because sometimes those halls get very messy. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Johnson.
So who is your supervisor up there? Is it Mr. Roweeder or is it Kent?
I think, you want to answer that? I mean,
Well, technically, I'm his supervisor up there, but I work with Roweeder and Joel Crisalt up there too. And they're our mainstays, because those are the two that are going to tell us what is going on with the day-to-day operations of the school. And we deal with the athletic director, as you know, to deal with events where we need to be or where Matt needs to be. So keeping in contact with the principals is very important to have the day-to-day, because they're the first ones that get notified about any disciplinary issues.
And so, Matt, do you and Mr. Roweeder, you know, every 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever, sit down and look at, you know, we need to do this, or Can we improve at, whatever it may be? And, let's hopefully think that we're gonna be at full staff here pretty soon. Personally, I think you're an important person up there. I do. And I get your building relationships with kids. But in order to do that, you gotta be there. And you can't be there when we're short-staffed here, So I'm kind of looking at hopefully next year we're full-staffed and you can be up there, but we can also look at what have we learned in the last couple of years to make it better for you and up there.
Well, I forgot one person that's very important up there is Barb. She's very important too,
Yeah.
to notify us what's going on too, so I don't know if you have anything like that.
Beginning of the year, we did have we started to have a sit-down meeting about security protocols up there. 3 minutes into that meeting, I got called out of it it was either a fight or something that I couldn't keep pending. So, I would like to have more, I guess, briefings or discussions with them on situations like that. And you do bring up a good point. At this point, there isn't anything that says, hey, let's meet every 3 months and talk about where we've been, where we're going, what we can do better type of thing. Yeah.
With that, it's also hard to get the staff up there to talk to us at the same time too, because they are spread thin themselves. To get Mr. Kersalt and Roweeder and anybody else up at that school for all of us to meet is very hard to do, because they're as soon as they sit down, they get pulled off to do something. So it's just like problem with not just with us, it's a problem up at the school district too. And I think hopefully with the new superintendent coming on up there, that hopefully this changes, where we can sit there and have more of these meetings to see what the new superintendent's ideas are too. 'Cause I'd like to get his opinion also.
I guess I'll just sum it up by, my goal is, to have meetings like in August, prior to the school year starting, to discuss some of that security stuff. Obviously last year, it just didn't work out that way, just due to schedules and stuff. But it would be nice, yes, a month or so before school starts to sit down and plan out or talk about, revisit some, security issues or security protocol up there. And then along the same lines as, couple weeks or a month after the school year's done, try to meet up and then look and recaps, see what worked and what hasn't. There was another point I wanted to make, but I can't remember what that was. But yes, I would like to have more meetings. It's just I haven't, in my organizational process with just everything that's been going on, I haven't had time to really organize a lot of things. I'm still learning a lot about the program, the SRO program, and it seems like, the school is too, having not had an SRO. So ideas and communications are being exchanged. Usually, though, it's not in a formal meeting setting. It's just real quick in the hall, or, hey, you got a minute, come in my office, and then we sit down and talk like that. But yes, going forward, I think we probably can have a better standard operating procedure and address some of those issues.
Well, and I appreciate your time and what you do up there, and I think it's important, but I also look at, in the next 3 months here, before the school year's out, I know that in the agreement, it says that we're gonna get numbers on cases that you've done and stuff like that up there, and this is well, actually, the last couple of years have been very unusual. You know, but I think the meetings are important. I'm not a numbers man, but, you know, the meetings are important so that we can get better along the way here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Officer Rebel? Counselor DeWall?
Just a follow-up. This is always a sensitive subject, but it's a reality of what you are facing out there. As you looked at the types of cases at the school, is there any relatively relation to COVID, homelessness, domestic violence, sexual assaults that you've encountered yet? You know, whether you're educating or, I know it seems like the nursing department does a lot more mental awareness dealing with that stage, and I don't know how it's affected you in your job at the school, but I'm just, is there anything that strikes you?
Are you asking if like anybody's personally approached me to report something, or just the overall general environment kind of
General
there?
environment, you know, there was a talk of all the mental stresses with COVID with kids, you know, we're talking about behaviors, we're trying to correct behaviors with young students, and have you run into any types of situations where, you know, they just maybe don't have the right family life, which alters them to act out in a specific behavior, or they went through COVID situation with a grandparent that didn't make it, that type of scenario that's caused unjust behavior, so to speak?
The easy answer is I don't feel I have enough experience to answer that in depth, just because I don't have a baseline. You know, I went in when COVID was cranked up full blown, so I don't know how, you know, how the kids behaved, say, before COVID. For me personally, the masks, it's I like to see people's full face. I'm like photographic memory, so to speak. I'll remember people's faces, maybe not necessarily their names, and obviously with the masks and some with the hats, you're only seeing eyes and stuff. So that's been a little hindrance, trying to place identities on people. But then again, that's where school officials are really good at saying, oh yeah, that's so-and-so.
And I guess I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm looking for, as I look at future things we're going to be discussing, community block development block grants. Seems to be money out there to help public services, which that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In those types of categories, you know, I guess I'm looking for any way to help fund,
Right.
you know, your situation over there. And I might be stretching a little bit, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
Right. I mean, the staff up there, yes, you know, I've heard things about them, about mental health of the students and stuff. Again, you know, if one student's acting out, right now I have a hard time saying, yes, it's because of COVID and not just, you know, their behavioral issues that have been there for years. Once in a while, I'll get a little bit of insight from the staff saying, you know, well, no, they usually don't act out this way, or, yeah, I guess I haven't really approached that subject either with the students on how they feel about the masks and stuff. I haven't had to respond to, like, you know, anybody completely out of control, you know, that was having nervous breakdown. I will from time to time stop in to the counseling office, which I think that's probably where a lot of the students would go for that, but I think they probably have their procedures and laws of what they can and can't discuss with me either.
And I'm not asking for you to dig into something, you got enough on your
No,
plate.
right, no.
I'm just saying if by chance it starts to be a similar theme, you know.
Yeah.
Please let us know, let
Okay.
administration know, because there is money available out there to get for that service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to help our community, our public, our students, et cetera. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none. Thank you for the update on the SRO.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate it. I guess the very good wrap-up. Good discussion, good questions. And that leads us, of course, into the staffing issues of the department. And I know Chief Gatis has had some discussions with Jess about the budget and how we can alleviate the problem. And maybe Kent has something to share there.
Well, at least tonight, with the police commission's approval of hiring another officer, goes a recommendation tonight, so we'll have another officer that will be starting with at least qualifications tomorrow, as long as the council and the mayor approve it. And as long as they approve it tonight, that officer will start next Monday with their training. So that is the good news. The bad news is that we do not have an eligibility list left. The other candidate that we were backgrounding decided to stay in their current department after looking over the contract and looking over what he had compared to what we had. He decided that he was going to stay in his department. So that was unfortunate, but that's the way it is nowadays. These candidates are looking at everything. So I would highly suggest that we look at posting for at least an eligibility list soon, very soon. I know that the council and the mayor, you're going to talk about the budget and see if we can possibly add. That is in your hands, and maybe the city administrator can talk about that a little bit more. I just would like to at least post for an eligibility list to get it out there.
Chief Gatis, I know a couple meetings ago you reported on the number of departments that were looking in the state of Minnesota for officers. Has that number decreased or increased, or has it stayed pretty?
It's staying right about 50
Okay.
in Minnesota, and about a lot in Wisconsin also.
I think you said like 95 or something.
Yep,
over in-
over 90 in Wisconsin.
Yeah. But our Minnesota side is staying pretty flat at 50.
50 to 55,
you.
depending on the week.
Thank you. Any discussion from council regarding that eligibility list? I don't think it's a bad idea. It doesn't hurt us to get some people on a list that may be interested in coming here. We never know what the future holds as far as law enforcement, and we've seen what we've been going through the last couple of years, so having some people ready to go would be a good idea, in my opinion. Any other comments?
Just
Counselor
one,
Hill?
Mr. Mayor. Back in the day, and I don't remember the specific year, but we've done the SRO full-time. I know we had Officer Mosier over there. How many FTE officers did we have when we did it where Dan was over there Monday through Friday? This is my first, it's a two-part question. That's my first question.
When I first got hired in 1996, the city got a grant for an SRO. That's when I got hired. And then we had seven officers then.
Okay, thank you. And then my follow-up question, assuming council approves the recommendation from the Civil Service Commission, how many total officers would that bring us up to?
Total full-time would be 8, if you added the one.
That includes the potential.
We're currently authorized to have 7 now. With the city administrator talk about the budget and stuff, that would go up to 8.
So if council approves this recommendation from Civil Service Commission, that brings us to 8?
8 full-time.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to 7, correct?
7.
That's what I thought.
No,
He's
for
talking-
tonight's, if we do eligibility list,
I'm not talking eligibility, I'm just talking, assuming council approves the recommendation from Civil Service Commission, how many full-time officers, assuming he gets the job? Does that bring us to 7 or 8?
tonight,
Yep,
7.
okay, that's,
Yeah. I thought you were talking about adding one.
nope,
Okay,
just what we
Tonight's-
had before, what we have now,
correct. Yep.
it brings us back to
Back to 7.
7. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Benson.
Chief, when you say we're authorized to have 7, where does that number come from?
The budget,
The budget?
the budget
Okay.
that's approved.
So there's not a national standard that says for every 500 people, you should have an officer?
There has been numbers, but that's been highly debated. Like where I came from before across the bridge, Superior has about 29,000 people, and they have about approximately 60 officers, which is very high for a population that high. It all depends on what you're bordering. You know, I mean, could sit there and say anywhere, I've seen stats anywhere from 1.5 up to 2.5 officers per 1,000 people. But it all depends on what the community needs are, usually when you sit there and look at it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any other questions? I guess I would just make the recommendation that if we're looking at an eligibility list, maybe Police Civil Service could put that on in a future agenda for a council to look at.
We will.
Thank you. Chair Giuliani, the floor is yours.
I guess one of the things we may want to speak a little bit about are some hiring incentives because of the difficulties all police departments are having all over the state and the country these days. We are having difficulty getting qualified candidates, and you know, it's become quite difficult. And so we were wondering if there's some sort of some incentives that we can get people here and maybe help them to stay here. We as a commission have approached the subject. We haven't come up with any concrete ideas, I guess, at this point, but we're open to suggestions from anyone at this point. So if the city council has any suggestions for us, ways to get more people to apply for the job, and so on, we would certainly appreciate it.
I have nothing sitting here, but I'll do some digging and see if I can come up with any ideas. Council, comments, suggestions?
That's a very difficult question to answer because we certainly don't want to over-incentivize so that we forget about the people that are here, and that's where it gets tricky. It's a tough, I'll definitely take it under consideration and try to think outside the box a little bit, because you want to reward somebody or incentivize somebody to get them excited to come here. I certainly don't want to see our existing department feel like, you know, and a lot of businesses are struggling, especially as wages increase. And I've been here for 20 years, and now the new person coming in is starting out $5 more than I did, and it's a tough one.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think there's maybe something we can do for those officers that have been here for a while too, and some incentive there. I think we have to be fair, but it's, you know, we as a commission are struggling at times, you know, to get people here to even to do testing as we did a couple of years ago, and get people to even be interested in applying. So that's going to be obviously a continuing problem, but we'll take it upon ourselves to look and see what we can do.
Councilor Johnson.
Chief Gaitis, can you elaborate a little bit on why the other guy didn't come here or didn't?
He sent an email, Officer Mosier did his background, and he sent an email to you like Friday night or something like that, correct? And he just basically said, after looking over everything, you know, looking at what we had and what his current department had, he decided to stay up there. And Dan, Officer Mosier sent him a nice email saying that sorry that you decided to do this because we're going to move forward in the process. And did he ever respond back to you? No. So that's why I was kind of curious too, Counselor, why?
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to know why, you know, and that's why Dan did send back a nice email to him, and we didn't get why, you know.
Well, it just seems weird that obviously that person was interested at one time, and now all of a sudden he's not.
And, you know, he asked for our contract, gave him a copy of the contract, and now the union, LALS's union, they post the majority of the contracts online now on their website. So, you know, is that a good thing? I guess. But then now everybody can sit there and research what we have to offer, Hermantown or even, you know, Isanti Police Department has, you know. So there's a lot more information out there for these candidates to look at now. You know, and I get the incentive thing is this, like, that's why I encourage all the council members and the mayor to look at the post board, look at these hiring, these job policies, and see how these other communities are thinking differently of what to do. I'm not saying they're right, but it's just nice to sit there and see I never thought I would see this ever in my career, that you're getting these, you're getting signing bonuses and stuff like that, you know. So I wish I could have answered that question, Counselor, that why he said no. But he reached out, he talked to us, we had a very good meeting with him, and it's kind of disheartening to hear that he pulled out.
Thank you. I'm in no means trying to cut the meeting short, but we are getting down to about 15 minutes, so.
The other thing that I had on the agenda was the updating of the officer and sergeant job descriptions. I don't know if,
Yeah,
Okay.
So that would be, not to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
But have us, the police commission, we can sit there and suspend, we can go look at that, make sure that everybody agrees with the officer,
Okay.
the sergeant's description. Then after this, the process would go to LALS for them to look at,
okay, and
to
then,
their union BA. Once that happens, it goes to the council for approval.
okay,
So we can finish up our business,
there you go, there you go.
okay?
I don't think I have any other topic to discuss at this point. If anyone has any questions?
Officer Mosier, have anything? Dan? You have anything? Okay.
Chief Guidus, now, if there's a change in a job description, just assuming before it goes to city council, it would go to the negotiation team first, correct?
Well, usually, what the whole process was, it went to the police commission because they oversee us.
Yep.
And then it went to the council. So I guess I have to figure out, usually, because I don't think this has been changed since I've been chief. One was changed in 2011, and the other one was amended in 1997. So how the process, that's why I wanted these things, these job descriptions updated.
I can take a stab at this. Administrator
Counselor.
Rich, you can fill in. A job description, not per se, should or needs to be reviewed by the negotiating committee. The job description should basically come from the Police Civil Service Commission, because it's their job and duty to align non-administrative type duties. You know, there's a part in where the city administration and council get involved because, you know, for budget, you know, we're in charge of the budget, we're in charge of how we spend money. So as far as the actual job description goes, I would see it going recommendations from the Civil Service Commission and then probably funneling through our city administrator to the council. And then the next go around, we would obviously sit down and negotiate as far as, okay, this is the new job description, this is the functionality, what is it worth? And that's where I see the negotiating committee coming in after that point. Am I right? I don't know if that helps answer.
Does anyone have anything further for anyone in the room, I guess? Councilor Benson?
going back for, that hiring incentives, I think it needs to be, to Councilor DeWall's point, needs to be recruitment and, retention. So just to keep it balanced, and from what I've been hearing, in my circles is, wellness. That's such a big deal, and it has been for the last 3-4 years, and it might not be just for the police department, but for the entire city staff. And I'm not sure where the state is going with the money they're looking to put into recruitment and police students, but I think it's something that's worthy of being explored.
Thank you. Anything further? You guys have anything further?
I do not. I think we're
You're good?
done.
All right. Well,
Thank
with
you.
that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Do you guys need to